Hi, welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League series. In this video, I will be talking about my watch list of players, as well as explaining the potential transfers I'll be making over the course of the following game weeks. I will also show the fixtures as well, just to assess the threat level and the risk of the transfers. So moving on to the first target, it is Sias. Now this is a Wolves defender. I currently have Cody, who is another Wolves defender. Now I am thinking of two things, whether to replace Cody with Sias or add Sias to the team and double up. That's the question. Now Sias managed to get 15 points in the first game week, which is really good. He managed to get a clean sheet, which is always good as a defender, and he managed to score from a corner kick, which is great. Now, he has been known to score and get the odd assist, like from previous season. Now, in contrast to Cody, Cody seems more of a defensive player who won't go out and attack or score, really, because he didn't get any goals or any assist last season. So that's to take into mind. Now, additionally, if you look at the fixtures down below, they are facing City next, which is going to be an interesting and tough game for both teams. But then after that, it does fizzle out and it does become slightly easier up to game week 7 as they face West Ham, Fulham, Leeds, Newcastle and Palace, which is pretty good. And out of those matches, at least 3 of them are home. So they've got a good chance as well. So that's the first target. Now moving on to the next is Hendrix. Now Hendrix from Newcastle is a new signing, so I don't really know much about him. Now he did originally play for Norwich, I believe, but he didn't seem to perform as well based off from his points from the previous season. But now he's in a potentially better team and new players have also come in as well, probably got a good chance to get the assist in and the odd goal. Now Hendrix did manage to get 14 points. Now I can't remember if he got a goal or an assist, but he got one of them, so that's great. And he managed a clean sheet as well. So what I'm thinking of doing is getting rid of Saint Maximin and adding Hendrix in, because I feel Hendrix has got more chance of getting more points compared to Maximin. That's just my opinion. Maximin is also 0.5 million dearer, whereas Hendrix is only 5 million. So if I do make the swap, I'll have more money in the bank to spend elsewhere. So that's another factor to take into consideration. Now the actual fixtures early on are pretty rough, facing Tottenham, Burnley, Man United, Wolves, but then after that it gets a little bit easier. Now one thing I will disagree on is, although the difficulty rating is green against Everton, I disagree with that. Everton seem to be doing quite well and have got quite a good team. I'd say the difficulty rating would be at least a 3. So I don't know why I'd have highlighted it as a 2. But nevertheless, Newcastle, it'll be interesting to see how they'll hold up against the tougher teams and see if they can handle it. And if they can, then it'll give me more confidence and I'll rely on them more. So we move on to the next one. It is another Newcastle player who is a defensive one, Jamal Lewis. Now Lewis, I did have on an alternative account just to test out, and he did manage to get high points. He got 7, which is pretty good. Managed to get a clean sheet and overall just seemed decent. He's 4.5 million, so he is cheap. That's another good factor to take in consideration. You look at the fixtures, again, it'll be interesting to see how he'll perform against the tougher teams and whether he can keep a clean sheet or not. Now we move on to the next one, is Jamie Vardy. Now, if you look at the fixtures and the threat level, it doesn't seem too great, to be honest. It looks difficult. But what you got to take in consideration, Leicester are a reasonable team. And someone like Vardy, who's one of their main players who will be playing most of the time. You can rely on him. And even if Leicester don't always win, Vardy is still capable of scoring. And win or lose, providing Vardy scores, his points aren't affected. Whereas someone like a goalie or a defender, that's where points are impacted on. Now, Vardy is 10 million, so his price is quite steep. But I feel I'd be more comfortable with Vardy over the likes of Danny Ings and even Werner, in a way, at the moment at least. But I don't think I'll make that decision too soon then. So the fixtures are reasonable. They've got a decent chance at least, and it'll be interesting to see. Then we move on to the next one. We've got Castagne, I think that's how you pronounce his name. This is a new signing from Atalanta, and he is a midfielder. Now, his first performance, he managed to get about 14 points or so, which is really good. He did manage to score a goal as well as get an assist, I think, and he got a clean sheet. So overall, pretty good, solid performance. And because he's capable of scoring, and he's a midfielder in fantasy football, that is always encouraging. And if he doesn't score, he's most likely going to get the assist in. So it's a win-win. He is a new signing, so that's another factor which I take in mind. You know, could it be a one-off good performance, or could it be the start of, you know, a good season for him? So yeah, that's what I'm thinking of adding. We'll move on to the next one, James Rodriguez. I like the idea of having him. He's a top player, well-known one. Been in high-end teams, but the main reason why I'm thinking of getting him is because of the price, because of the position, and the overall team he's in. Now, Everton seem to be much more stronger this time round. Seem to have a nice team, nice setup. You know, they've got Richarlison on the left, James Rodriguez on the right, and then Calvert-Lewin, you know, in the middle as the striker partnership. The actual fixtures Everton have are actually really good. Aside from Liverpool and maybe United, the most part of it seems reasonable. Now, I don't know why Newcastle is a 3 threat level. You know, that seems a bit steep, that. So what, they're saying Newcastle are just as dangerous as Chelsea? I disagree. Now, that might be just based off from Newcastle winning their first match, so that might be why their threat level is higher now. But, you know, Everton won their first match as well. So I'm not too worried about that. Everton overall do have good fixtures early on. So if you want to get the points in, it's probably best selecting Everton players for the time being. He's 7.5 million, so he is cheaper. I could get rid of Son and get James Rodriguez. You know, save a lot of money where I can spend elsewhere. So that's another good factor. And then the final good factor is, because of the team and the formation, James Rodriguez, in real life, he's playing as a winger, I believe. He's playing up front, basically, as an attacker. Now, in fantasy football, he's a midfielder. And that kind of works out good, because since he's a midfielder in fantasy football, he can get a clean sheet bonus point. So that's good. And with playing an attacker role in real life, he's most likely going to be scoring. And if not that, he'll be definitely getting assist because he's playing on the wing. So he can cross it in, or he can pass it up front to Calvert. So yeah, that's great. Now, he didn't get many points in the first game. He only got 3, but he did make quite a few chances. So that's good to know, at least. So we move on to the next one. It is Calvert-Lewin. Now, one thing I do want to mention, I have recently bought him. I got rid of Danny Ings and I thought I'd get Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin is only 7 million, which is pretty cheap for who he is. And for part of last season, he seemed to hold up quite well. I did have him briefly and he did reasonable. And now with the new updated team and the formation it is, he most likely will be playing for most part of it. So that's good to know. And he's young, so he'll have enough energy and be able to perform well at a high level. Fixtures, like I said before, pretty good. So they've got a good chance. And yeah, you know, I've got a bit of money left over now because of getting rid of Ings, so I can spend that elsewhere.